Good morning, colleagues. It is an honor to participate in this seminar, which brings together colleagues from diverse socioeconomic and cultural environments that are shaped by similar, shared, or overlapping historical trajectories and legacies of imperialism. My name is Shani Roper, and I'm curator of the University of the West Indies Museum. My discussion today is shaped by several questions. So, the first question is around the creation of a National Museum of Barbados and how it was discussed in Jamaica. So, in recent years, there actually has not been significant debate outside of the cultural sector on approaches to museum practice in neighboring Caribbean countries. However, the COVID-19 pandemic provided an opportunity to discuss the role of monuments in public spaces, especially in reference to the removal of the Lord Nelson Monument from Hero Square in Barbados. Now, that discussion occurred at the same time as the forced removal of the Lord Colson Monument, the Robert Colson Monument in the United Kingdom. And for those of us that may remember, that monument, which was pulled down and dumped in the river, um, really forced a reconceptualization of public space in the United Kingdom. And the ripple effect is that a similar discussion emerged in the Caribbean, especially in light of the larger context of decolonizing museums. And in that public discussion, it required a rethinking or a thinking through of the interpretation of public space and the ways in which colonial era monuments exist alongside independence or post-independence era monuments that are very often tied to the construction or public the public engagement around national identity, the ways in which national identity is created. And so, as a consequence, that Lord Nelson debate in Barbados, which was one of several it, attempts of it happening, right, really had a ripple effect for us to think regionally about monuments and how they occupy and define the landscapes that we live in. So the second question is really about the history and development of the University of the West Indies Museum. So in order for us to talk about the University of the West Indies Museum, we actually have to talk about the University of the West Indies. So the University of the West Indies was established as the University College of the West Indies in 1948, and it emerged out of two important historical events. The first being the significant labor unrest that was Anglo-Caribbean wide, and so it happened in all the islands and some of the continental Caribbean countries between 1932 and 1939. And this unrest was due to the Great Depression that occurred in the US in 1929. And it actually significantly reduced migrant labor opportunities in the region. The subsequent West India Royal Commission report, which is known in Caribbean history as the Moyne Commission report, was released in 1945 and argued for the creation of a tertiary institution that catered to both men and women. Prior to this moment, if you wanted to be a professional, you actually had to leave the region. The second important historical event is the formation of the Asquith Commission, which was in Britain rather, which was developed, sorry, to explore the establishment of higher education institutions in colonies, right? For the Caribbean, the subcommittee was the Urban Commission. And after much review, they identified the site of the World War II internment camp, which is also known as the Gibraltar camp, as the site of the campus. The Gibraltar camp was also the former sugar plantation called Mona Estate. So as a result of this, the Irving Commission recommended the creation of a single residential campus in Jamaica serving 12 Caribbean colonies. Classes began October 4, 1948, and the first 23 men and 10 women entered pre-medicine. At the same time, they established the extramural department, which provided adult education classes throughout the region, 12 specific countries. By 1960, the University College of the West Indies merged with the Imperial College of Tropical Agriculture to establish the St. Augustine campus, which is also a former sugar estate in Trinidad and Tobago. In 1962, the UCAA transitioned to be an independent degree granting institution. And in 1963, they established the College of Science and Arts in Barbados, and that institution became the Cape Hill campus. So faculty programming grew from medicine to a wide range of other fields. And the university, in both forms, University College of the West Indies and University of the West Indies, fostered regional intellectual development and was profoundly shaped by political decolonization, the Black Power movement, trade unionism, and the regional independence movement. At the same time, scholars studied and developed trajectories for understanding Caribbean historical and literary practice and scholarship, while at the same time doing this hard sciences, right? So it was created, the university was created in service of the needs of the British Caribbean or the Anglophone Caribbean. And today the campus has four landed campuses: Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, and Antigua. The last is Antigua, established in 2019, and one non-landed campus, meaning that it has multiple sites in multiple countries in the region. So as the institution grew, there were calls to establish a museum. In fact, the museum was included in the early drawings in the 1950s by the British architects Norman and Darburn, who were responsible for the construction of the Mona campus, as well as the University Hospital of the West Indies, which is a companion teaching institution. However, the museum was not established until 2011, 2012, when the Office of the Vice Chancellor was separated from the Principal's Office on Mona campus. So, but what is very important to note is that even before the existence of the museum, there were efforts to document and preserve the heritage of the Mona campus, which is over 600 acres and is a combination of the Mona and Papine estates. The site has a tangible built heritage, representation of the period of enslavement, indentureship, internment camps, and the institution's development. So the scholars very often describe the campus site as a palimpsest, which is that a landscape on which the past and the present constantly coexist and collide, and the land itself is constantly being transformed. So a good example of what this means when I say coexist and collide is in recent years, they constructed the Faculty of Medicine building. And during the process of groundbreaking, it was identified that the building was going to be placed on a burial ground associated with the enslaved village of Papine Estate. Archaeological excavations confirmed human remains, and the historical record also confirmed that this was a burial site belonging to Papine Estate. And though the construction continued and the building was opened, in as part of recognizing this history, an obelisk was installed with the names of men and women who lived on Papine Estate in the 19th century towards emancipation rather. So the museum itself how has it evolved in response to these colonial legacies? And where the change is driven by citizen demands or regional debates. So the University Museum functions in a post-colonial, post-independence environment. It has been in operation for 12 years and has been focused on recouping the material culture of the institution in initially focusing on the early years and evolution. So though there are publications on the development of the university and its evolution, these are mostly administrative histories. The history of the institution itself is not really taught in the program, nor is it effectively or consistently recorded and collected. So for the museum, the collection approaches to documenting and exhibiting the institution's history focuses on oral history, recollections, photographs, films, and call for objects. And theme-based exhibitions help to expand our understanding of changing campus culture and student life, the impact of national events on the campus, and the experiences of the administrative staff. So all of this comes together to form a bigger picture of campus life outside of administrative histories, while at the same time diversifying collections. So the participants and relevance of the museum, as in work, communities and stakeholders involved in transforming, and how were these participation processes carried out, and do they continue? So because the museum itself is young, it emerged as a special project of the then Vice Chancellor, Dr. Nigel Harris. The museum space was included in the construction of the regional headquarters, which houses the Office of the Vice Chancellor. And the first curator, Dr. Susan Francis Brown, was also a landscape specialist of the University of the West Indies. So her research and approach, which continues, is a community-based approach. So she developed, and I continue to do this work, projects that rely on the collection of memory from aging alum populations, while at the same time attempting to collect the present. So the museum regularly hosts classes, support graduate and school programs, and then we collaborate through exhibitions across the region with the other campuses. However, there are some significant difficulties with this process. The extensive regional reach of the institution within the Caribbean archipelago means that the team is small. We really cannot engage in a kind of extensive collection program. And there's no companion department in the other campuses. And so it means that it's very difficult to do collecting. The second issue is that there's no real policy framework that allows for the development of a stable collections management and inventory system. And this is for the sciences, for the arts, for research and teaching collections, for art collections. The fact that the campus began as a single residential campus until the establishment of St. Augustine means that the alum population has always been extremely dispersed regionally and internationally. And this has a direct impact on our ability to collect oral testimonies and even memorabilia and objects. Lastly, contemporary collecting practices are also difficult due to the lack of infrastructure and human resources across in jurisdictions. So I want to just wrap this up with national strategies and plans. And the question is really, are there regional strategies and plans for creating, renewing, and reconceptualizing museums in the Caribbean? And how does this align with global African aspirations? So for Jamaica first, there are efforts to streamline legislation so that we can become signatories on UNESCO conventions, such as the 1972 Illicit Trafficking Convention and the 1995 UNIDROIT Convention. By becoming signatories on these conventions, we actually begin the process of properly streamlining and bringing our national policies up to date, especially in an effort to create a national inventory, thus meeting these basic requirements. Regionally, a key area is risk. So risk from climate change and natural disasters is a pressing issue in the region, and professional organizations across heritage across heritage, cultural, and museum sectors are focused on collaborating around disaster response and recovery, especially for preventative conservation. And to facilitate this, increasingly there has been a focus on developing a Caribbean ethos for tropical conservation because there has been a high reliance on northern standards, which cannot be effectively adapted to Caribbean environments. And practitioners have recognized this and realized that it's important, and they have in their practice have been adapting Caribbean approaches or approaches that are responsive to Caribbean environments. Additionally, organizations such as the Caribbean branch of the International Council of Archives, which is called CARBICA, through funding from the Cultural Emergency Response in the Netherlands, has sought to establish regional disaster hubs in partnership with other organizations like the Museums Association of the Caribbean. And the goal is to be able to mobilize to enter countries after hurricanes or volcanic eruptions to do first aid to culture. These organizations provide opportunities for networking and for everyone to share new approaches in the museum and cultural sector, thus contributing to Caribbean scholarship and maintaining Caribbean practice, voices, histories. And all of this works together to build and maintain a multilingual and multivocal ethos that is inclusive and representative of the region. In conclusion, the museum development and sustainability require the creation and implementation of policies, legislations, or regulations that streamline the evolution of the museum specifically and the cultural sector more broadly. These policies, in principle, should foster infrastructural and human resource development, as well as complement and support curatorial and conservation practices that engage communities, thus facilitating their ownership of national cultural spaces. I thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to our conversation to follow. Thank you.